Good evening, and welcome to the Wednesday, May 11th Planning Board for the Town of Dudley. Present this evening, we have Marcia Wagner, Clerk of the Board, Sean Guerin, Member, Mark Mazziotti, Member, myself, Guy Horn, and we have our interim town planner, Dominique, how do you say your last name? Dutremble. Okay.
No, everybody else does.
I'd have to.
So the first item on our agenda for this evening, approval of meeting minutes. It says April 27th, but that meeting was actually canceled, so it's going to be for April 13th. Has anybody had a chance to review the minutes from April 13th meeting?
Mr. Chairman, I haven't had an opportunity to read the minutes of the April 13th, and I'd like to approve them as read.
Okay, so we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous? Okay, next item on our agenda is item B, Town Planner Job Description. That was basically left over from the last meeting, and I wanted to just have that left on there so that I could let everybody know that the internal posting was posted at the town hall, and now there is the planner job is being advertised externally for external candidates to apply, and they are using the new job description that was rewritten by our town administrator. So does anybody have any questions on that?
No.
Okay. All right, and then we are going to start our public hearing on the warrant articles. There's 3 of them. Do we have the printout from what was advertised?
Yes.
Actually, Mr. Chairman, I did read the ads.
Yeah.
So
So if I can
The
just
public
read.
hearing notes?
Yeah.
There's one, and it was advertised on April 29th and May 6th.
Okay. Okay. So we're going to be a little bit early, but I think that's all right. Okay, so please take notice. The Dudley Planning Board will hold a public hearing on Wednesday, May 11th, 2016, at 7:05 in the Dudley Municipal Complex, room 321A, DMC Veterans Memorial Hall, 71 West Main Street, Dudley, Mass. 01571, to review and receive public input on Articles 15, 20, and 33 on the warrant for the annual town meeting to be held at Shepherd Hill Regional High School at 68 Dudley Oxford Road on May 23rd, 2016 at 7 p.m. Article 15, paraphrased, proposes amendment to the zoning bylaw, Section 2.03.02, to allow licensed residential animal kennels as of right in all districts, subject to an annual inspection and approval by the town building inspector and animal control officer. Currently, licensed residential animal kennels are allowed by special permit in Res 10, Res 15, Res 30, Res 43, Res 47, Light Industrial 43, and Light Industrial 87. Article 20, paraphrased, proposes amendment of the zoning bylaws pertaining to large-scale ground-mounted solar voltaic installations. The proposed amendment would prohibit such installations in districts Res 10, Res 15, Res 30, Res 43, Res 87, Business 15, Light Industry 43, and Light Industry 87, and permit such installations as of right in Industrial 43, Industrial 130. Additionally, the amendment proposes adding such installations as of right use in the Town of Dudley Refuse Disposal District. Article 33, a citizen's petition, paraphrase, proposes amendments of the zoning bylaw, Section 3.13, cemeteries. The proposed amendment would modify general cemetery requirements in terms of lot size, service roads, utilities, parking, and other requirements. Complete text of the articles may be seen on the Town of Dudley website, www.dudleyma.gov, on or after May 9th, 2016, or by visiting or contacting the planning office, the town clerk, or the Board of Selectmen during regular working hours. The warrant is also available for view in the lobby of the Dudley Police Station 24/7, anytime after May 9th, 2016. The planning board will receive public input at the public hearing. Any person interested or wishing to be heard should appear at that time in place designated. If unable to attend, please forward written comments to the planning office before 5 p.m. on May 10th. Guy Horn, Jr., Chairman, Dudley Planning Board. Okay, and we had this advertised on April 29th and on May 6th. Okay. So, I guess we'll go ahead and open our public hearing. And the first one that we were in discussion with, that's under C. So this is the one that was discussed by the town clerk at the last planning board meeting. Basically what the situation is for people who have more than 3 licensed dogs, if you have 4 licensed dogs, you have to comply with this residential kennel bylaw that's currently in place, and that requires you to go through a special permit, requires you to hold a public hearing, requires you to get on the butters list and send out notifications to all the abutters within 500 feet, I believe it is. So her thought on this was to make this, to rather simplify this and make it a permitted use versus a special permit use. And do we have anybody from the public that wanted to speak about this? Mr. Daliakonis?
Good evening, planning board members. My name is Greg Daliakonis, Dudley Town Administrator. I did meet with the town clerk when this proposal was drafted, and I think it is something that we should support, and I would ask your endorsement on the basis that it streamlines the process and provides for residential kennels and residential zones to be approved by the animal inspector and building inspector, both which have expertise in this area, versus the zoning board of appeals, which is typically involved in other such business. I would ask your support. Thank you.
All right, thank you for your input. Anybody from the board have any comments?
I had a few. I mean, I understand where it's coming from. If somebody has 4 Yorkies or teacup dogs, whatever you want to call them, compared to 4 Newfoundlands, you know. My only real question is by leaving it in the hands of animal control or board of health, they come in and inspect your home. Is that the way I expect it?
No,
I understand it. I mean,
It's building inspector or animal control officer.
which is on the board of health, correct?
I'm not sure.
Animal inspector is under the board of health, yes.
Okay.
So from what my understanding is they come into the home, they look at the home, look at the yard, and they go from there. What's to stop somebody from walking their dogs, whatever, you know? I mean, if they come in and think the yard is too small.
Well, I think if that's the purpose of the inspection from the animal control officer to see if you have
I understand that, but what's
adequate-
too small, what's too...
Well, like you said, if you're in a Res 10 area and you got a 10,000 square foot lot and you want to have 6 Newfoundlanders, it might be a little bit too small.
And I do understand that, but they can bring their dogs to there are dog parks in the area. There are other areas they can go with. My whole thing is them coming in and just surveying the private property and saying yes or no.
I mean, I don't know how big of a problem it is. I just think that, you know, it shouldn't be.
Well, if somebody has, there's another thing there too, is you've got to be completely open to the, if somebody has an issue with somebody, or if there's complaints in that area, you know, I mean, it's a tough situation, that's all, the way I look at it.
I think the,
I have no problem, I'm in support of what they're doing.
yeah, I think the effort was wholeheartedly to make it simpler for people who wanted to have more than 3 dogs. I mean, I think a lot of Dudley is residential, we have a lot of open space, and I think if, you know, if you had a
I
couple
mean,
acres
if you have
of land.
a studio apartment and you have, yeah,
Yeah,
wake up, but I do understand that.
Right.
So.
okay. All right, so our next one, that would be the one on the licensed kennels. The next one's going to be ground-mounted solar voltaic bylaw, so D. So this is Article 15.
What tab are you under?
I'm under D,
Okay.
and it's on page,
No page.
there's no page numbers. It's about
Middle.
middle of the book.
It's about
Article
midway
15.
through and highlighted.
Under D, correct.
It's Article 15.
I got it, thank you.
Okay. So this is basically a change to our current zoning. And it's basically going to restrict large-scale solar voltaic installations from all the residential areas, business 15, light industrial 43, and light industrial 87. So if you look at it from a pure percentage base or a ratio base, what's left over, the industrial 43, the industrial 130, and the town refuge area, that's about 5 to 6% of the land that's in town. So it's basically saying that 94 to 95% of the town wouldn't be allowed for large solar voltaic installations. And I think, just trying to see what else had changed. Yeah, so basically what was previously a special permit is now not going to be permitted, and it'll be permitted in 2 zones. I do know that this was looked at by our green communities, Massachusetts Green Communities, because we do fall into that designation now, and I believe we were told that if there was one zone that there was allowed in, that was enough for their.
1 zone in 1 acre.
Okay, so this is above what green communities would require. And districts. Okay, so why don't we open it up to the public, and if they have any questions on this one? Mr. Ballyukonis.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Greg Ballyukonis, Town Administrator. So I looked at the proposal, and I just wanted to state my concerns about it. And they are, in summary, that I think that the restriction, it's overly restrictive in terms of the land area that would be left for development of solar facilities. It would, secondly, it would reduce the town's potential of bringing in non-traditional tax revenues, which we've worked hard to try to establish. And then thirdly, it potentially would take away some of the highest and best land available for industrial uses, which could be developed for other purposes, and dedicating them for solar for a period of time. So if give me a chance to go on, we have 3 solar projects that are in various stages of approval in Dudley. Those solar projects total approximately 78 acres. That's about 0.5% of the land area that's available in Dudley. We have 14,144 acres, so it's about 0.5% of that. And those 3 projects total 8.3 megawatts over that acreage. And remember, not all of that acreage is actually solar panels. Some of it is buffer zone, some of it's land that can't be used because it's either wet or it's encumbered by height or ledge. Of the 3 projects that we have in town, they will generate, if these agreements, solar agreements do get approved, $119,311. So it's not an insignificant sum of money, and $120,000 pays for a lot, especially when you consider the fact that it's reoccurring over a period of 20 years. The 20-year revenue is $2,386,220. Again, a significant amount of money. I feel that the town, through its planning process, should not necessarily restrict solar facilities just to the zones that you have here. I feel as though there are proper restrictions where they come before this board for site plan approval, major site plan approval, that there's significant input that goes into the process. And I believe that that is sufficient to protect the interest of the residents in the community. The final comment that I do have is the solar facilities are not permanent. So most of them have a design life of about 20 years. So in 20 years, that land can be reused for other purposes and generate tax revenue. So my thought is that this gives us an opportunity to bring in some non-traditional revenues that we desperately need, and we need it to fund our operations. So I would ask you to consider my comments. We also want to make available the opportunity for green communities money in the future. As Ms. Wagner indicated, it's not in conflict with that, but what we want to do is be able to avail ourselves to additional green communities money in the future. Thank you.
And Mr. Town Administrator, could I ask you just a couple of quick questions on what you just stated? So the $120,000, that's per year?
Pardon me?
The money that you stated was...
Yes, so if you take the average,
yeah.
Most of them agreements would have a 20-year payment in lieu of tax agreement. So the average over that 20 years is $119,311.
Okay. And out of the 3 that you said are in various stages, have any of them yet been finally approved at town meeting? That
we have 2 projects which have received the necessary approval to have a payment in lieu of tax agreement negotiated. The property up on Dudley Oxford Road across from Shepherd Hill, that has been approved by town meeting, and the selectmen have actually signed an agreement. Okay. But there are other reasons as to why that project hasn't started at this point. There's a second project out on West Dudley Road, which is located up on top of the hill. That's about 28 acres is one site and 15 acres is the other. That's been approved by town meeting. However, we have not reached agreement on the payment in lieu of tax agreement. And I can tell you the reason why we haven't is the town wants language in that agreement that if the project should be shut down for financial reasons, or the project shouldn't happen due to reasons that are out of our control, the town wants to be able to recover some monies, and we're holding hard in terms of the fact we want 1-year payment if those projects don't happen. And we're going to insist upon that in all of our payment in lieu of tax agreements. The third project, which is located at Center Road and Farley Road, that actually is in, as I understand, is in one of the industrial districts.
Yep.
So that is the smallest of the 3. The board, we had authorization to negotiate a payment in lieu of tax agreement granted at the town meeting in the fall, and we've completed those negotiations. And there is an article this spring at town meeting on May 23rd to actually go through what the details of that payment in lieu of tax agreement are, and hopefully seek the approval of town meeting to actually approve it. So going forward, we will ensure that there's a separation between authorization to negotiate and approval of the agreement. I think it's important that the residents in town be given a second opportunity to decide whether the agreement is in the town's best interest, and the Farley Road is the first one to go through that new process.
Okay. In the second project that you mentioned, is that the project that has shown an interest in deeding the land back to the town after
Yes.
the project was complete?
That's the one. So the developer, as you know, came before your board and agreed to do that. The only hang-up at this point is the fact that the town is holding firm on the language that I alluded to a few minutes ago.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions?
Yes, the Farley Road one that you mentioned, in the spring, the town meeting voted to allow negotiation, and now will the town see the dollar amounts at the May town meeting?
Absolutely.
Okay. What kind of guarantees are there on the figures that you quoted, the 120,000? I know that National Grid has already asked for a reduction in rate that they pay manufacturers, so what kind of guarantees do we have on those rates, and what money's going to be made on the projects?
So there's each of these agreements has a separate 20-year schedule that enumerates what the amount is that the town will receive per year. My recollection is it's a 2 or 2.5% escalator every year that the rate increases by. And if for some reason the company goes bankrupt, then obviously all bets are off. But we would at least have certainty that we have a document in writing that's enforceable in court. And they said if someone declares bankruptcy, it's a whole other issue. But again, getting back to the fact that the town wants guarantee that if they do terminate the agreement, we're not left high and dry, that we receive at least payment for 1 year, or if an agreement is terminated once the project has begun and is generating electricity, things change, they're no longer viable, they want to shut it down, they still have to pay us for 1 year and then shut it down.
And you are, in your contract or in your negotiations, are you putting in the money or a bond at the end for the removal or cleanup of the solar field?
No, we haven't put that in, but we know that as part of the planning board's process in granting site plan approval, that's important. We don't want to do anything that infringes upon your ability, but if you want to have language in that going forward, we'd be more than happy to accommodate it.
Okay. Any other questions?
Just one question. You said they're not forever, 20 years. At the end of 20 years, where we can go back to possibly making another, some sort of tax revenue, don't I'm just trying to remember at one of our meetings, wasn't there a recommendation of going to green space with some of these? The ones that are already in play?
The one on West Dudley Road that will be donated to the town will be put in conservation, so the town won't earn any revenue for that piece of land.
Thank you.
It'll just go fallow.
The one that's on Oxford Dudley Road, though, it's currently in, I think it's Chapter 61 or 61A.
The one on Dudley Oxford Road was in 61A. The selectmen determined not to exercise the right of first refusal.
Right.
So that is no longer an issue, but any that others are in 61A will obviously come out and be considered by the Board of Selectmen.
Right, but what I was getting at on that is those lands that are in 61A are paying minimum taxes before the solar field, so,
Okay.
you know, with the solar
I'm
field.
just saying afterwards is what I'm going, does it go
Right.
back to that, or?
Like, it would go back to
or
raw
does it go
land.
to a land trust?
It would go back to raw land, and then it was be up to the owner to decide what they're going to do with it. They could develop it, or they could use it they could put it back in 61A if they wanted to use it as a farmland, because it would basically be a field, is what it's going to end up with. Once the panels are removed, you're going to have a grassy field.
No, I understand that. I do understand that, but it just, future tax revenue, that's all I'm getting
Okay.
at.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, my only comment is, and it has always been, I feel that and this is my personal comment, that the bylaw is very restrictive. I have a tendency to agree with the town administrator. I had stated that before, not necessarily supporting the current bylaw that we have, but I do feel as though this is a bit restrictive for the reasons that the town administrator raised. I just wanted to share that comment with the town.
Okay.
If I could, I've done a lot of research. I thought it was the one challenge to do this. So I did a lot of research. I reviewed towns who put moratoriums on them to do research before the town made any moves. In 2000, there was a community development plan done in the town, and then the Economic Development Committee did another review in 2013. The people in the town want to see the town look and stay the same. So this reflects the townspeople's wishes, and including the town landfill would eliminate a middleman. The rates are going to go down for these projects. The Massachusetts incentives are all used up already. National Grid has asked for a reduction in the rate already. So, like I say, I did a lot of research on it, and so I think if we could recruit somebody to come in for the town landfill, that would be advantageous to the town. We wouldn't have a middleman to pay with a pilot program. It well exceeds the requirements for the green community. They only require 1 acre in one district. And I'm looking at the model zoning of regulations for solar energy by the Massachusetts Executive Office of Energy and Environmental Affairs. And they have guidelines, and I know our current Attorney General promotes these. And there's one, it talks about the placement and siting. Dudley's a rural farm town. It discourages cutting down trees. It discourages anything on farmland that can be farmed. So I think it really reflects what our townspeople are looking for.
Okay. Anybody else? All right.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Greg.
Okay, so the next article we need to discuss is going to be Article, I think it's 20? 30. 30, okay. So
33.
Article 30. And here it says Building and Grounds.
Here we go. Yes.
Cemetery.
33?
From the back. 3 pages up from the back.
Okay. This is Article 33. It's a citizen's petition, amended zoning bylaw 3.13.00 cemeteries. How does it end? All right. I think I'll go ahead and read this one. 3.13.01. The purpose of this bylaw is to reasonably regulate the development of new cemeteries within the town. This bylaw will provide standards for placement, design, construction, operation of new cemeteries that address public safety, conserve health, protect water supply, minimize impacts on scenic, natural, and historic resources. The Section 3.13.02, applicability. The bylaw applies to new cemeteries as defined herein, proposed to be constructed after the effective date of this bylaw. Next section, 3.13.03, general requirements and specifications. A, location. New cemeteries may be located in the permissible districts defined in Section 2.03.02, use by district chart. Due regard shall be shown for all natural features such as large trees, watercourses, scenic points, historic spots, stone walls, and other community assets, which, if preserved, will add attractiveness and value to the cemetery. The location of any new cemeteries or expansion of existing cemeteries must be approved by the Town of Dudley Board of Health in accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 114, Section 35. Lands to be used for burial. Item B, design standards. New cemeteries will have a maximum lot size of 3 acres, 130,680 square feet, and follow all dimensional setback requirements for the district in which it is to be located. See Section 2.04.02, density requirement table, setbacks, etc. No burial plots will be located within any of the required dimensional setbacks. All streets within the cemeteries are to be designed and built per the Town of Dudley rules and regulations governing the subdivision of land, design standards. A minimum of 10 designated parking spots shall be provided within the cemetery in an effort to reduce on-street parking, and adequate snow storage area will also be provided for the parking spaces to be used in the winter months. This is all per Section 4.01.00 of the parking standard. All utilities shall be placed underground. Lighting of the cemetery and streetlights will not be allowed. Lighting will be allowed on any structures within the cemetery for safety/security purposes. These lights shall be designed to minimize glare on abutting properties and be directed downward with full cutoff fixtures to reduce light pollution. One non-illuminated sign not exceeding 3 square feet in area and denoting the cemetery may be visible from the street or public way. Every abutting property shall be visually screened from the cemetery through any one or a combination of the following: location, distance, plantings, existing vegetation, trees, hedges, retaining walls, stone wall, and/or fencing. The fencing may not exceed 6 feet in height. Item C, operation. The operation of all cemeteries will follow Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 114. Graves will be constructed as specified by the Town of Dudley Board of Health. Cemeteries will provide for perpetual care of the cemetery and keep them respectfully neat, clean, and in good landscaped order, or take any other action relative hereto. All right. So do we have any input from the audience? No? Okay, so I see that our town council has joined us, and I asked him to be present tonight so he could explain a possible situation that this proposed bylaw could create for the town with its current situation in a proposed cemetery that's ongoing, being permitted.
Fine, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. I did have a chance to speak with Mr. Horn about this issue regarding the effective date of the proposed bylaw. And I discussed it as well with Mr. Belliconis to advise him of the potential impact. And as a petition article, this article had to be included in the warrant as it was presented. Mm-hmm. But the planning board has the right, as part of this public hearing process, to, as part of its report and recommendations to the town meeting, has the right to propose amendments to this. The zoning bylaw also is subject to amendments from the floor, but the moderator has to determine if those amendments are within the scope of the article. So in looking at the bylaw, the one issue that came to mind was regarding applicability under 3.1302, where it states that the bylaw applies to all new cemeteries as defined herein, proposed to be constructed after the effective date of this bylaw. there are a couple of provisions in the Mass General Laws that relate to the effective date of a zoning bylaw. Number one, a zoning bylaw is generally considered to be effective as of the date of adoption. Even though it's sent to the Attorney General's office, the Attorney General may take as much as 90 days to review and approve or disapprove a bylaw. But when it's approved retroactive to the date of adoption. So in this case, this bylaw, under the terms of not only 3.1302, but also the terms of Chapter 48, Section 5, this bylaw would be effective if it was adopted by town meeting on May 23rd. And it's a dimensional bylaw. It really applies a dimensional limit to cemetery use, which does not exist under the current zoning bylaw. In addition to that, the bylaw, a proposed bylaw under the terms of Chapter 48, Section 6, applies to a building permit or special permit issued after the first notice of the planning board's public hearing that you're having tonight. Now, I'm assuming that notice, it's required under 48.5 that it's at least 14 days before tonight's meeting. So, and this is a provision that the Mass Legislature incorporated in 48 Section 6, but it clearly provides that a proposed bylaw applies to a building permit or a special permit that is presented after the first date of publication. So, for instance, if the planning board was proposing an amendment to the zoning bylaw, and it might affect a building permit, if you post your notice today for that public hearing to take place 2 weeks from now, someone walking in tomorrow to get a building permit would have to take that building permit subject to the proposed bylaw. And a special permit, in this case, the special permit that's being considered by the zoning board, also has to be issued subject to that proposed zoning bylaw. But here you have two events taking place which would cause this to apply to the Corbin Road Cemetery. You already have your publication of the planning board public hearing. So, and the zoning board hasn't acted yet on the special permit. They're in their deliberation stage.
Right.
And this is expected to be acted upon by town meeting on May 23rd. So there are two effective dates that would then apply to the pending application for special permit on Corbin Road. And there have been discussions, as the board may know, there have been discussions at the zoning board hearings that relate to the question of whether or not the applicant is willing to reduce the size of the proposed cemetery to try to address not only the concerns of the neighbors and other people in town who've raised questions, but also to reduce the size to address their own particular needs. When they originally appeared before the zoning board back on February 4th, the applicant's engineer said that they were looking for a site of 5 to 10 acres. They ended up buying they're in the process of buying a 55-acre parcel. So they estimated that their needs were such that a 5 to 10 acre parcel might have satisfied their requirements of 9 to 12 burials a year and X number of acres of usable land on the site. So there have been discussions before the zoning board about having the applicant reduce the size of the cemetery, which would then expand the scope of the buffer. If the remaining property is retained for agricultural use or some other use, then clearly that would reduce any impact to the abutting neighborhoods and the community as a whole. So, but the difficulty here, and this is where, this is something that'll be subject to town meeting to make a decision. I'll have to give the same explanation to town meeting. But if the planning board's intention in reviewing this article and your understanding of the petitioner's position is that this was not intended to affect the Corbin Road property, then what I would recommend is we could include language when you do your report and recommendation at town meeting. We can include language to state that the applicability, that it would apply to all new cemeteries constructed after, say, September 1st, to pick a particular
Some date, yes. Okay.
And as we talked today, Mr. Chairman, I think by September 1st, I would assume that the zoning board would have completed its deliberation and decision on the special permit, application. The Board of Health still has to conduct its hearings. The last two hearings before the Board of Health have actually been continued by the applicant the day before the hearings. So we've really only had one Board of Health hearing so far on the application, and the applicant still has not presented documentation that the Board of Health asked to be submitted back on March 11th. They wanted it on March 11th for their March 15th meeting. March 15th was continued to April. They asked for the information for the April meeting. The information wasn't provided, and the April meeting also was continued. So the next meeting of the Board of Health was scheduled for May 17th. And if you're not aware of it, the applicant has requested that the Board of Health continue the matter generally now, pending the outcome of the zoning board hearings. So our next zoning board hearing is going to be on June 2nd. So once again, not to be repetitive, but the question is if the citizens who filed the petition, and if the board's intention would be not to have this apply to the Corbin Road Cemetery, then we could you include an amendment within your report to town meeting.
And you could provide some language for that?
I could, yes.
Okay. All right. And it would just be a vote on the, basically brought up on the town meeting floor for amendment. They vote on the amendment, and then they would vote on the whole article.
That's right.
As amended.
As part of your report regarding this public hearing, and then the board's recommendation on the bylaw as a whole, you could recommend it with the amendment for a start date of, say, September 1st.
All right. Anybody else have any other questions? Okay. Well, I thank you for your recommendation. And thanks for coming tonight to explain it.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it. Do you have anything from the public?
What I would just ask, Mr. Chairman, is if you can have a motion, a second, and a vote on the proposal if to amend 3.13.02. And what I would simply recommend is that where it states, this bylaw applies to all new cemeteries as defined herein, proposed to be constructed after, and then what I would simply insert there is September 1, 2016.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I will make a motion to support the amendment that Town Council has recommended, and I so move.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Actually, we probably should have closed the public hearing before we voted on that. We're still in a public hearing. We probably should have closed the public hearing before we voted on that.
Actually, you can continue your public hearing, or if you're ready to close it. I don't think it wouldn't be a problem if the
Okay.
motion's taken as part of the public hearing.
Okay. I don't think we're going to have any more public input, so I think we could close the public hearing. So we'll close this part of the public hearing at 7:45. Right. And the town meeting again is May 23rd. Is that a Monday?
Monday, yep.
Monday. At the,
I believe the 24th is the backup date.
24 days.
Yep.
at the high school, and we're talking 7 p.m.?
Is it the 23rd or the 24th?
23rd is the date.
24th is the backup date.
Yeah, if there was
Oh,
something that,
In case there's a need for a second night.
Correct.
not a snowstorm?
Never know.
Or a lengthy debate.
Never know.
Okay. All right, so I think I'm going to leave it up to the board. How do you want to vote on these articles? We can vote on them here, or in the past, what we've done typically is we hold a meeting prior to the town meeting, and we vote on them at the night of the town meeting in case anything changes.
We should go with that.
So we'll schedule a planning board meeting for Monday, May 23rd at 6:30 at the at the high school cafeteria, as we typically do. And we'll go over the articles, and we'll vote and make our recommendations for the town meeting floor.
I won't be here.
Will be, okay.
Mr. Chairman, if you or any of the members have any questions regarding the bylaws that are proposed beforehand, you can just send me an email, and I'd be happy to respond, and I can respond to all of you and to the planner as well. And then I'll be there at 6:30 on Monday, the 23rd, to answer any questions you may have at the time.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you very much. All right. So, after that, the next item on our agenda comes up. And it's planner's plate.
Great, thank you so much. So the last couple of weeks since we last convened have been rather quiet in terms of customers, but productive nonetheless. Continued working on the planning procedures manual, organizing the office in electronic files. I think it's really getting there. Prepped for the planning board meetings, provided customer service, had a potential two-town A&R that might come through, some questions about Dippin' Donuts landscaping, and buildability questions about 12 Mason Terrace. Released David Haynes' Line Estates Escrow Fund. Posted the town planner job description on 2 planning websites and the Mass Planners listserv. Got the town clerk, worked with her to fix the phone system greeting. Spoke with Gary Brackett about the open meeting violation. There's no schedule here, no hearing scheduled, but he's going to send a memo that will be presented to the judge at the time of hearing. And I did a little bit of paperwork for the town administrator concerning green communities and reporting, really just getting some documents signed off and filed with National Grid, which is something that Nancy used to do or had started to do. On Wednesday, May 4th, we had a planning board financials meeting, which the chair convened between myself, Chris Ryan, the town accountant, and the town treasurer to discuss existing financial processes relevant to your board. The goal of the meeting was to clarify the existing processes and identify strategies to improve the financial systems. So we identified some issues and came up with some strategies. In Dudley, all of the site plan review fees are deposited into a shared account. Historically, the town planner tracked deposits, drawdowns, and applicant balances for that account. In 2016, the interim town planners learned that a consulting engineer had not been paid for the work performed and that the account lacked sufficient funds to cover the bill. So what we did, there are a couple of attachments behind this report. The interim town planners created flow charts illustrating the existing financial processes so that they can be more transparent and evident. The town accountant also created a spreadsheet, which is also attached to track professional review fees. The accountant will update the spreadsheet when she receives funds and pays out vouchers. The town planner will also maintain a copy of the spreadsheet, and periodically these two staff will cross-check to identify potential errors or omissions. The town accountant's copy is on the website, and there's also a link on the planning page. Additionally, we agreed that the site plan review fee account balance will be added as a reoccurring planning board meeting agenda item. So if you go to the last handout under that tab, currently you have in your professional review fee account $559.95, which includes an existing balance from previously and Henke, Sass, and Wolf. And I think that that's everything on that one. The Village District Overlay Walking Tour is scheduled for this Saturday, May 14th. I will not be there, but Chris Ryan will be meeting you at 8:30 a.m. and suggests departing at 8:45 a.m. So meeting at the municipal building, but driving down to the river to start might be a good idea. CMRPC just revised the Dudley West Main Street Route 197 corridor study area map to expand the boundaries to the French River. This map will be available for everybody on Saturday, and I also just prepared a document to facilitate critical analysis and thinking points during the walk. Planning board warrant articles, I have reviewed all of them. I don't have any input on Article 15 or Article 20, large-scale ground-mounted. article, the licensed residential animal kennel article, I think that, as I previously stated, it would streamline the process and eliminate the need for homeowners who want more than 4 dogs, making them not get an abutters list, go to ZBA, and also allow review on a case-by-case basis. Chris wondered if more deliberation might be required than the upcoming town meeting would allow. I'm not sure what the existing process currently, with the existing demands on animal control or the Board of Health are, but it does provide for an annual inspection, and I'm not sure how much that would increase the workload. The citizens petition article on cemeteries, I did review that as well. Provides some fairly restrictive criteria that would make it difficult to establish a new cemetery in Dudley. Establishing a maximum lot size of 3 acres, but requiring internal service roads to be built to town standards, keeping the burials out of setbacks, requiring underground utilities, and requiring 10 parking spaces for a 3-acre cemetery. It's a high bar to meet and perhaps even financially infeasible. But you could, of course, grant variances as need be.
Great.
I think that's all I've got.
Okay.
Questions for me?
Yeah, I have a question. So how many hours have you been spending in the planning office?
About 10.5, including
week?
travel. I think, yes.
Oh, including travel? And how long does it take to get here?
It takes a half an hour each way.
Okay. So how many days is that per week?
So I'm here Tuesdays and Wednesdays.
Okay.
On Tuesdays, I'm here 8:30 to 1:30, and on Wednesdays, I'm here 8:30 to 11:30, except nights like this when I show up at 3:30.
And do you feel as though those hours are supporting the town for the needs of potential residents that may need planning assistance?
Yes, I think that the 2 days, I haven't had anybody that I'm aware of not be able to reach me or fall through the gaps. I mean, the office coverage is minimal, but if it's not a critical item, then it, can wait until the next Tuesday or Wednesday. It's just kind of keeping things floating.
Okay.
That's what it allows.
Do we provide means for a resident who may show up at the planning office finding it closed to contact you or one of us?
No, but we need to.
Okay. I think that would be good.
Yeah, I was going to talk about that more when we get to planning board, but are you almost done, or?
I am done.
Yeah,
Thank
okay.
you.
All right, well then, comments from the planning board. Why don't we start with that one? My thought was, with the hours that we've advertised for this new position, it's basically, it said 17 to 19 hours per week. The hard part I see with that is that we don't always know how long our planning board meetings are going to go, and we don't want the person to wind up working more than 20 hours per week, because then that puts them in a different category as to being eligible for benefits. So my thought was that I thought it would be great if we could have a planner that is in the office at least 3, if not 4 days per week, where, if it was 4 days per week, maybe it's going to be 4 hours a day, 4 days per week, and then 2 weeks per month when we have our planning board meetings, they'll be here. So that way there, we're assured that they wouldn't go over the 20 hours, per week. The other thing that we could do is, if we wanted to have longer hours per day, it all depends on, I think, the person that applies for the job. Some people can come in and work 4 hours and get a lot done. Some people need to work all day to be productive. And if that was the case with this, with whoever the person is or the applicant, then maybe we do a 3-day schedule where they work, 5.5 hours a day, or maybe we look at something like that, or even 6 hours a day, but not on the weeks that we have planning board. So I think we have some flexibility with it there. But I think with Dominique, maybe you could answer this better. But if in a 4-hour day, do you think that that's coming in, answering the telephones, looking at emails, and then doing what needs to be done? Do you think that's doable from what you've seen so far for the workload that?
A 4-hour day?
Yeah.
I think yes. However, it'll depend on the projects.
Okay.
Haven't encountered any major site plan reviews or anything
Right.
particularly
Yeah.
heavy,
Yeah,
so.
As it's kind of slow now,
Right.
that may work, but
right.
I guess the reason why I was asking the questions is I think it's incredibly important for us to, as a board, to be as accessible for the planning office or us, to be as accessible as necessary to accommodate the residents of the town so that they can continue to rely on the fact that even if they come here and the office is closed, that they can still conduct business. Whatever the document looks like that we leave on the window before we leave or whatever, as long as it accommodates that, I think we're doing the right thing. And if it means that it's over 20 hours, if we can't get it done within 20 hours, then I think it needs to be looked at that it should be more than that. It's incredibly important that we support the residents of this town to be able to come here and conduct business. That's my opinion.
Mhm.
Obviously, finances are factored into that, and I certainly respect that. There's got to be some way in which we can make sure that when a resident needs to be able to access the planning office, whether it's someone's there or not, they'll have the ability to, whether they call one of us or are able to call the planner.
Mhm. Okay. All right, the other thing I wanted to bring up was what Dominique went into about the financial on the single escrow account that we have for the professional review fees. I don't know if all of you know it, but I think you do, that previously this was tracked only by the planner on an Excel spreadsheet, and after her leaving, we found out from the professional town engineer that there was some fees that hadn't been paid for a number of years. We had to go back to a lot of backtracking, research, and basically rectified that whole account to the point now where we have a single deposit. So we have the $59.59, $59.95 that was carried forward, and we have a single deposit that was made on 3/26/2016 for Hanky Sass Wolf. And this was, if you remember back, I'm thinking this was last October, their engineer came in along with, I believe it was Gentex, that we had both approved site plan reviews for Gentex and for Hanky Sass Wolf for major expansions, and Hanky Sass Wolf did all their parking lot expansion but didn't do their building expansion. They came back and asked to do that at a later date. We voted to approve it, to basically say that it was a previously approved site plan review, and that they were just doing it at different phases. I believe the issue with Gentex was they did their addition, but then they needed to do more parking lots, so they were coming back to do the parking lot at a later date. And we approved the same thing for both of them. What transpired here with the deposit from Hanky Sass Wolf is $500 to cover our consultant town engineer when the project is pretty much complete, but prior to issuance of an occupancy permit, he will go out there and review the entire building. They were putting on about 30,000 square feet. It's a 3-story addition. He's going to go out there, review it, and make sure that what they built is what we approved on the plan. And if there's any discrepancies, he would let us know, and he'll send us a letter to that effect when he does his inspection. This money's to cover his inspection. What needs to happen is any money that's left over after this inspection, after we pay the consultant town engineer for his inspection and his report, that needs to go back to the applicant. And one thing that was brought up at the meeting that I thought was very good that we haven't done at all, I've been on the planning board for 9 years and this has never happened, and I think it would be a good thing that we start this as a practice going forward. I don't want to see just the planner responsible for this account. I think the planning board, we're taking the money in, we're the elected officials, we have to be responsible that this account stays, we stay on top of it. So I would like I think maybe the vice chairman would be a good job for a vice chairman, because he's going to be one of the people probably signing off on vouchers, that the vice chairman take the responsibility once a month at a planning board meeting. It can either be the first meeting of the month or the last meeting of the month. We just review this one account to make sure that the money that comes in is going to the right applicant, and that if we get a report from town engineer that says the project has been completed, everything's okay, he signed off on it, he's happy, we can pay him his last bill, and then whatever funds are left over, we need to make sure that it goes back to the applicant. And like she said, like Dominique mentioned, the town accountant has put this on multiple places on the website, one of them being underneath the planning tab. There's a button that you can click on and see this spreadsheet. So it would be very easy for the vice chairman to call us up and look at it. And if we had it done, like I said, once a month, that's 12 times a year. It's not too much of a hardship, but I think it'll keep us on top of this, and we won't have the same situation happen where the consultant town engineer had to wait 3 years to get paid for what he had previously done for us. So, and I think right now, where times are slow, and this account is relatively easy to manage, it'll give us a good way to get up to speed on it. That's all I had from the planning board. Anybody else have any comments?
What's that?
Okay. And lastly, we got comments from the audience. Any comments? Okay, seeing none.
Through the chair, I do have some written email comments pertaining to the cemetery under comments from the audience.
Oh, okay. From the, you mean the ones that were asked to send in for the public hearing?
They weren't specifically denoted as that, but I thought that they were perhaps relevant since the timing.
Okay.
But I think they're self-explanatory.
We told them that they could
Where do
send
we
it in.
find them? Under H?
Item H.
Yes.
Item H.
Maybe we always do that.
These were sent in to,
They were received by me,
they were received by you, okay.
and they, all from the same person.
Okay.
Unsolicited? I mean, they just send them to you, they showed up in your inbox?
Yes.
So is this an email address that you use at the town hall that I'm looking at here?
I think maybe I was blank CC'd, and that's why the town planner email address isn't showing up.
Oh, but that's what it came in on as
Planner.
planner at, okay. But others were copied on this, obviously.
Yeah, the second one shows that. The first one shows a Yahoo domain. That was CC'd to you also?
Okay, I think, given the tone of these emails, we will not be reading them on the air, but I thank you for keeping them and pointing it out to us, and we can all read these on our own. And if this person really wanted to make these comments, he or she could have came to the meeting. So I think that's a point to be made. All right. Was there anything else?
No.
No? Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Okay, we have a motion to adjourn. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
May I? Sorry, there is something else. I have a voucher.
Okay. What number, what item is it?
Item I,
Aye.
a voucher for planning board expenses for advertising the public hearing warrant articles
Okay.
in the amount of $147.
All right, we can sign that. 13, yeah. Oh, 11/3. Yeah.
Those are other town notices.
Okay.
Just two are required.
Yeah, just two.
Thank you.
Okay, no problem. All right, so we have a motion to adjourn in a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous. Thank you very much. Have a good night.